Hello everyone and welcome to another talk show where leadership meets clarity and conversations go beyond the surface. I'm your host on studios as usual, Nurdin Chapo, and today we are focusing on something that determines whether movements grow or fade: communication. Because no matter how strong the vision is, if the message isn't clear, consistent and strategic, the impact weakens. In today's fast-moving environment, perception shapes momentum. At Jumuiya ya Vijana wa Pwani, the responsibility falls under communications and public relations. Joining us is the Director of Communication and Public Relations, Balozi. Balozi, welcome. When you stepped into this role, what communication gap did you identify first, and what immediate shift did you implement to ensure that everything gets into the lane? Welcome, Bwana Balozi.
Thank you so much for having me today. First of all, Ramadan Kareem to all our Muslim brothers and sisters, and happy Lent to the Christian community all over the world. So, very good question coming from you. The first communication gap I identified was the absence of a centralized messaging structure. Different voices were speaking for the organization without any alignment, which created inconsistencies in the tone, timing, and narrative positioning. If you can remember, or rather, you should know that JVP has just started, so there was no clear structure of communication within and even outside the organization itself. So my immediate shift was to institutionalize a coordinated communication framework where I introduced message clearance protocols. They only come from me or my office. And then I established a single source of truth content calendar where, understanding what the JVP leaders have done, I have to go through a certain way so that all the things that are communicated are perhaps the truth. And then I created a rapid response structure to ensure that all public messaging align with our strategic objectives. That shift immediately brought discipline to our communication flow, reduced contradictory messaging, and it ensured that every statement reinforced the JVP brand and political positioning. So that is what I did.
Alright, that shows intentional leadership. Fixing internal gaps before chasing visibility is discipline, because when structure is corrected quietly behind the scenes, the public only sees the strength, not the confusion that once existed. Now that those communication weaknesses have been addressed, the responsibility becomes bigger. It's no longer about fixing, it's about maintaining and elevating. As JVP continues to grow and attract more attention, what standard are you setting for communication going forward? What does excellence look like from your office, Bwana Balozi?
So yes, excellence for my office will be defined by how clear I send the message, how consistent I actually send it, and how credible it is. Remember that in my office, we are controlling the narrative. So whatever we say, whatever we do, how we communicate it is going to reflect what JVP is all about. So it is important that the message is very clear, it is very consistent, and has a lot of credibility in it. So that's the first thing that I would say is my excellence in my office. And then remember that every communication has to be reinforced for JVP's identity. And then how to advance our agenda as Jumuiya ya Vijana wa Pwani, from the main structure of leadership to the grassroots, and then the strengthening public trust. Remember, if I strengthen public trust by sending a clear message and actually showing what JVP is all about and what JVP is doing for the people, for the community, then it is going to be very easy for people to embrace it. So that's another excellence in my docket, in my office. So we are moving from visibility to authority, from people just seeing things that JVP is sending to people actually knowing that JVP is actually doing. So we are raising the bar from just being seen to actually taking command, and our communication standards have to reflect that evolution. So the more we move, the more we take a step, the more JVP takes a step, the more the leaders are taking steps, our communication has to show it. Yeah.
Balozi, before we wrap it up, if you had one direct message to anyone listening right now about JVP, about youth leadership, or about the direction you are pushing, what would you say to them?
If given an opportunity to speak about JVP as a whole, I would like to say this. Now, expect an organization that is organized. It is very much principled and is purpose driven. JVP is not just built on noise ati kelele nyingi. No, it is built on a structure, youth empowerment, na pia iko na long term impact. Jumuiya ya vijana wa Pwani carries leaders who have integrity, leaders who are ready to organize themselves as they organize their communities, leaders who have a purpose. So they are purpose driven. Wanajua wanataka kwenda wapi, and the direction they are taking is the direction that is going to change their communities and change this country and the whole nation at large, and the whole world at large. So we are talking about young people, because this is a youth organization. Young people who are organized, principled, and have purpose. They're purpose driven. So they should expect leaders who listen, who engage their communities, and their priority is on solving problems, or rather solutions, over slogans. Mnaongea tu maneno, yapping, and there's no clear direction, So our focus is actually creating opportunity and strengthening civic participation, and positioning the young people as active contributors to governance and of course development, because we are talking about 2030, Vision 2030 and all that, So as Jumuiya ya Vijana is growing, or rather as it grows, what stands out is the unity, the discipline, and of course the measurable action you can see in our social media handles. So we are committed to credibility. The collaboration that we have is just wow, and delivering results that reflect our vision and responsible and forward-looking leaders, because our president Songori is a leader who has a clear vision and has directed it to all of us, from the executive to, there's no judiciary, to the legislature. So it is just a structure that people are not only having fun leading, but also leading people to have fun. You understand? Yeah.
And that's the essence of leadership: clarity, responsibility, and direction. Balozi, thank you for stepping into this conversation and giving us insight into the structure behind the voice of JVP, Communication Shapes Movement. And today we have understood what that really means. To everyone listening, movements grow when people stay informed, engaged, and intentional. Until the next conversation, stay aware, stay active, and stay accountable. I was your host on Studios, Nurdin Chapo.